Hello, comic book fans. Here's Earl Grey, and this is, of course, coffee, because only a wimp would drink tea, even though I put some milk in it, because I'm a wimp nevertheless. But I have balls, and I'm hung like a brachiosaurus, because, and this hung like a brachiosaurus is actually a quote from Frank Miller in this book here. And only a man who's like that can review this book here. Even though, thinking about it, Brachiosaurus is a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are reptiles. Reptiles don't have dicks. So this would be maybe a good subtitle for this video. Dinos don't have dicks. Anyhow, this is really a huge book, oozing out man sweat with each page, and yeah, it's a big chunk. So story and format really are fitting together with 1,400 pages. It's the thickest book in my collection, I think. And aside of the king-size Kirby one, it's very probably my heaviest one. Still, the binding, after more than one read, holds up to this day, which is not a small achievement these days. So, to the book proper. Yeah, Big Damn Sin City collects all 7 graphic novels written and drawn by Frank Miller. It's basically a one-man show, even though there are some colors done by his wife, Lynn Varley, and the logo is by Steve Miller, but it's Frank Miller all over. And I would actually recommend, if you pick these stories up individually, to go for the first 4 of them at first, because after family values, it starts to weaken a bit, because here he's starting to making fun a bit of his own stories. That's maybe just my opinion, but he exaggerates the tropes so to the point beyond a line that's almost ridiculous. And Booze and Broads and Bullets is a collection of short stories. Hell and Back is a beast of its own. Starting very interesting, loosely connected to the Sin City universe, so to speak. But in the end, the end wasn't too satisfying, too good in my opinion. So, I think each and everyone who saw this comic for the first time was blown apart by this kind of art. It's very elemental, always some pages in, and there is a big man flying out of a window with very decoratively flying shards of glass all around him. And this is very impressive the first time and the second time and even the third time, but I haven't counted it, but how many times the men here are flying through window panes and stuff. It gets a bit repetitious, to say the least, and cars are flying around in every fashion, and these big men can be knocked out again and again, and even shot several times, and they still don't die, because that's what men can do. That's what men are. They don't die so easily. And if they do so, it really has to be, some essential force, to put it that way, to get them out of this world and into the afterworld. So here you see it plastered all over with bandages and stuff. And here he finds one of his prostitute friends ladies within this book here are not less mere stereotypes either. Prostitutes with a heart out of gold, for the most part. If you are more into subtle stories, forget it. This book will do nothing for you, because this book here is all about being as unsubtle as you can be, even though there are some nice parts with this in that regard, in that subtle regard. With this huge killer guy here revisiting his childhood place, but he's looking for his pistol, so yeah, there he found it. There are so many pages and panels that could be used on their own as poster art, or art that can stand easily on its own. That it's amazing. Yeah, and whoever wants to say in a while that Frank Miller can't draw, he's really proven wrong with this tome here. Maybe he's gotten sloppy in the last couple of years, and I don't like his recent outputs a lot. I flipped through them in the comic book shop and yeah, couldn't see the appeal. But Frank Miller can draw, which is actually proven in this book here, and you really have to be blown away by his skills and how he uses black and white in the most efficient way. All the characters, they once in each story, they meet each other in this nightclub. Even though some of them don't know about each other, some do, but you can see them in this nightclub all together. And this is a great storytelling device or technique that Frank Miller used in his graphic novels. So connecting all the Sin City graphic novels to one big narrative, and showing that he mapped out all the stories before, because even though this is an early story, there is dialogue in it which appears actually in the later stories. So we have the main particular characters in the foreground, but in the background there is stuff going on that is addressed again in the later stories. This is great, and you can really appreciate it the more when you read all the tome here in one sitting over a couple of days, of course. Even though I don't know if I can recommend it to read this in one sitting in 1 week or so, because the stereotypes in it, all the cliches, they will get a bit to you, and I think it actually reads better if you read one graphic novel at a time and do a break of some months, and then you are ready for Frank Miller full-blown testosterone-driven boldness again. Otherwise, you will maybe feel a bit ridiculed or displeased just a bit by all the stuff that is thrown at you, because Miller really tries always to get the most impact out of his panels, which is his is a very good thing if you want to see few pages. But you can be easily overfed with all this boldness. Sometimes it has really a bit of a David Mack vibe to it. Not just because David Mack likes to draw Asian women as well, but because of the sense for the layout of a page, how you arrange black and white on a double page or so, and Frank Miller is a master in that regard. no question. So, yeah, but it can be a bit too much. So in the end, after my reading session of all the 7 issues, all the complete tome here, I found myself a bit disappointed, but this is for sure just because I expected too much out of it. I love the reading the single graphic novels, even though I really don't like that word too much. I've used it again and again. However, the single stories, very much. I put it very high in my personal ranking of all-time favorite comics. And after reading the whole tome, it sunk a bit. Because, yeah, just because of these exaggerations and repetitiveness and so on. A bit more so because I've read my Munoz Sampaio books, and Alberto Breccia is one of the other guys who was a model for Frank Miller, and not saying that he swiped the stuff downright, but of course he learned a lot, and I think in some interview he said for himself that he really do like these Argentinian comic artists. And yeah, after reading Frank Miller, I opened up my Alex Sinner book here, drawn by Jose Munoz, and finding myself in love, deeply in love with this art here. And I think Fantagraphics had put out recently a new Alex Sinner compilation book, or with all Alex Sinner stories, I don't know. I have the German version and I will stick to them. Hardback, wonderfully printed, and really fantastic stuff, and very good, and at points and parts really almost subtle storytelling compared to Frank Miller, of course. So yeah, Munoz climbed a bit in my very personal ladder of favorites, and yeah, as did, and yeah, Alberto Breccia doesn't have to climb any ladder because he's already very high in my regard. And this is Mort Cinder, and you can get some new edition of Mort Cinder comics as well, I think from Fantagraphics, about an undead guy who traveled through the centuries and came to life at this antiquarian here. I've talked about all these Mort Cinder books and Jose Munoz books in my panellogy about Argentinian comic artists, so maybe you check that out. But I'll do nevertheless separate panellogy about Alex Sinner, I think, or Jose Munoz in particular. So I hope I had the balls to do this video about Nick Dempsey. I really should skip this testosterone-driven guy here, because I think that's just not who I am, even though maybe I want to be one of these guys here. But being a more, not so bold guy, you'll sure live long. So, live long and prosper, however. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye.